Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, the World Championship on the line. At the plate is the 3-time most valuable player, captain of his national team, and for many, the best baseball player on the planet, Mike Trout. On the mound, his teammate with the Los Angeles Angels, the only man who disputes that title, the power hitter, who is also an elite pitcher, Shohei Ohtani. The baseball world holds its breath. The count is full. 3 balls and 2 strikes. One more pitch will decide if the United States stays in the fight or if Japan is crowned world champion. How did we get to this moment? How can one man simultaneously be the biggest threat with the bat and the ace in the hole on the mound at the most important moment? This is not the story of a great baseball player. It is the story of a phenomenon that defies all logic. A unicorn that appears once every 100 years and is rewriting the history of the game before our eyes. This is the story of Shohei Ohtani. Welcome to Sport Rich, where success meets luxury. Subscribe and step inside the world of the richest athletes on the planet. To understand the man who today seems like a superhero, you have to travel to Ōshū, a quiet city in the prefecture of Iwate, Japan. There, on July 5, 1994, Shohei Ohtani was born, son of Tayoko and Toru Ohtani. The destiny of an athlete seemed to run through his veins. His mother was a standout national-level badminton player, and his father, an auto factory worker with great talent for baseball, who played in the Japanese Industrial League. From childhood, Shohei not only inherited the talent, but a near-sacred devotion to sports. While other children played video games, Shohei studied the movements of great pitchers and hitters. At Hanamaki Higashi High School, his potential became terrifying for his rivals. He wasn't just a good prospect, he was an anomaly. At 18 years old, his right arm was already throwing projectiles at 160 kilometers per hour, almost 100 miles per hour, a world-class elite speed for a teenager. But unlike other pitchers with a cannon for an arm, Ohtani could also hit, and not only that, but he hit with colossal power. It was at this stage that the legend of his discipline was born, thanks to a tool that is now iconic, the Mandala Chart. When the time came to turn professional, Major League Baseball teams sought him out insistently. The logical path was to go to America and focus on a single position, as everyone advised him. But Ohtani had another idea. He didn't want to be just a pitcher or just a hitter. He wanted to be both. It was then that the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters of the Japanese League made him a revolutionary proposal. The Ohtani Project, a detailed plan that not only allowed but encouraged his development as a two-way player. They promised they would prepare him to be a legend on his own terms. Ohtani, in a decision that surprised many, bet on himself and stayed in Japan. The experiment had begun. In Japan, Ohtani quickly demonstrated that his ambition was not a fantasy. He became a superstar, a national icon. In 2016, he had one of the most dominant seasons in NPB history. He won 10 games as a pitcher with a microscopic 1.86 ERA and at the same time hit 22 home runs with a .322 batting average. He was named MVP of the Pacific League and led the Nippon Ham Fighters to win the Japan Series. He had proven that being a two-way player was not only possible, but it was a weapon to win championships. With Japan conquered, the next step was the biggest one: the major leagues. At the end of 2017, Ohtani announced he was ready to go to America. The expectation was gigantic. Every team wanted him. But with all that excitement also came a huge dose of skepticism. Analysts, scouts, and former players were almost unanimous. What he did in Japan is impossible to repeat in the MLB. They said the level of competition was too high, that the physical strain of pitching every 5 days and hitting the other 4 would destroy his body. An anonymous scout was quoted saying, "He's a great pitcher and a great hitter, but in the major leagues he'll have to choose. No one can be elite at both things here, no one." Ohtani chose the Los Angeles Angels, and in the spring of 2018, the world had its first answer. In his first week, he hit 3 home runs in 3 consecutive games, and in his pitching debut, he struck out 6 batters and got the win. The phenomenon was real. It seemed he was going to silence all the critics immediately. But then, the first big blow came. In June 2018, he was diagnosed with a tear in his UCL. Although he finished the season as a hitter and won the American League Rookie of the Year award, the threat of Tommy John surgery was imminent. The operation was confirmed at the end of the season and would keep him off the mound for all of 2019. That was the beginning of his journey through the desert. He spent 2019 only as a designated hitter, and although his numbers were solid, the magic of his duality had temporarily faded. Then came the 2020 season, shortened by the pandemic. It was, without a doubt, the lowest point of his career. Upon his return to the mound, he seemed a shadow of his former self. In 2 starts, he couldn't get more than 5 outs. His control abandoned him, and his ERA skyrocketed to a catastrophic 37.81. At the plate, his performance also plummeted, batting just 190. The critics resurfaced stronger than ever. "We told you," they said. "The experiment is over." It seemed the unicorn's dream had crashed head-on with hard reality. But what happened next wasn't a simple recovery. It was one of the most spectacular explosions of talent the sport has ever seen. Entering the 2021 season, Ohtani wasn't just healthy, he was unleashed. What he did that year has no comparison in the modern era. At the plate, he became one of the most feared hitters in the league. He hit 46 home runs, drove in 100 runs, and stole 26 bases. His power was so immense that opposing teams preferred to intentionally walk him, even with the bases empty. But that was only half the story. Every 5 days, he climbed the mound and transformed into an ace. He won 9 games, registered an excellent 3.18 ERA, and struck out 156 batters. For the first time in history, a player was selected to the All-Star game as a pitcher and as a hitter. The comparison to Babe Ruth, which before seemed exaggerated, now fell short. Ruth was a great pitcher who later became the greatest hitter of all time. Ohtani was doing both things at an elite level in the same season. At the end of the year, the verdict was unanimous. Shohei Ohtani was the American League Most Valuable Player. There wasn't a single vote against him. If 2021 was his explosion, 2023 was his consolidation as a global icon. He dominated again, winning his second MVP award unanimously, an unprecedented feat. But his greatest moment came in March, in the World Baseball Classic. Ohtani, the heart and soul of the Japanese team, had guided them to the final against the powerful Team USA. And so we return to that frozen instant in time. Bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, Japan up by 1 run. Ohtani, who had started the game as the designated hitter, climbs the mound to close it. The final batter is Mike Trout, his Angels teammate, his friend, and the only man who could rival him in status. It was a matchup straight out of a Hollywood script. The count goes to the max, 3 balls and 2 strikes. With the world championship on the line, Ohtani takes a deep breath and unleashes a devilish slider, a curve that seems to start headed for the batter and then fades away. Trout swings and misses. The stadium erupts. Japan is world champion, and Shohei Ohtani, the man who does it all, had sealed the victory by striking out the other great superstar of baseball. Later that year, it was announced that Ohtani had suffered another tear in his UCL. This required a second major surgery that would keep him off the mound once again, just as he was preparing for the most anticipated free agency in history. Shohei Ohtani's free agency in the winter of 2023 was an event like never seen before. It wasn't just about which team would get the best player in the world, but about how much an athlete who is, in essence, 2 superstars in one, was worth. Finally, the news arrived. Shohei Ohtani would stay in Los Angeles, but would change the red of the Angels for the blue of the Dodgers. The contract was so monumental it seemed like a misprint. 10 years, $700 million. It was, and remains, the largest contract in the history of professional sports. But the most astonishing thing about the contract wasn't just the figure, but its structure. Ohtani, in an act of generosity and strategic vision without precedent, agreed to defer $680 of the $700 million until after the contract ended. Instead of receiving $70 million per year, he would only be paid $2 million annually during his decade with the Dodgers. Why would a man who had just secured the greatest fortune in sports history do such a thing? His answer was simple and direct: to give the team the flexibility to sign other great players and build a winning team. He didn't just want to be the highest paid, he wanted to win. This move demonstrated that his ambition for victory surpassed any desire for immediate financial gratification. The question on everyone's mind was whether Ohtani, now in the National League and recovering from another surgery, could maintain his superhuman level. The 2025 season gave the answer. His return to the mound was gradual but firm. With his workload carefully managed, Ohtani pitched in 14 games and accumulated 47 innings, demonstrating that his arm was still a viable weapon. This reaffirmed his commitment to remaining a two-way player, but it was in the batter's box where he unleashed a historic storm. Dressed in blue, Ohtani not only continued his dominance, but took it to another level. With astonishing ease, he began to accumulate home runs at a dizzying pace. He surpassed Shawn Green's mark of 49 home runs, which had been the Dodgers' franchise record for over 2 decades. He didn't stop there. He kept hitting homers until he finished the season with an astounding total of 55 home runs. Driven by his unstoppable bat, the Dodgers advanced through the playoffs and reached the World Series, where they faced the Toronto Blue Jays. On baseball's biggest stage, Ohtani was a key piece, with 8 home runs and 14 runs batted in during the postseason, leading the Dodgers to conquer the championship. At the end of the season, the voters again recognized his greatness, awarding him the National League Most Valuable Player Award. With this accolade, he joined the exclusive club of players who have won the MVP in both leagues, further cementing his status as a legend. Despite being one of the most famous figures on the planet, Shohei Ohtani remains an enigma. His life off the field is a reflection of his discipline in the game, methodical and almost monastic. He fiercely protects his privacy, but in February 2024, he surprised the world by announcing on Instagram that he had gotten married. Later, he was seen with who the media identified as his wife, Mamiko Tanaka, a former Japanese professional basketball player. True to his style, he asked the media to respect his family's privacy, keeping his personal life away from the spotlight. His dog, a Kuikerhonja named Decoy, has become a minor celebrity, being one of the few windows the public has into the phenomenon's personal life. He is not just a prodigy born with supernatural talent, he is the embodiment of discipline and long-term vision. From a young man with an audacious dream in a small Japanese town to a global icon who signed the biggest contract in history, Shohei Ohtani's career is a testament that limits are meant to be broken. He has done what was considered impossible, not once, but several times. He has resurrected a figure, that of the two-way player, that baseball had buried a century ago. He is, in every sense of the word, a unicorn. An athlete who redefines the rules of the game and forces us to ask, what else is possible? His story is still being written. Every time he steps on a baseball field, whether with a bat in his hand or a ball in his glove, there is the possibility that we will witness something that has never been seen before. Now, it's your turn. Let us know in the comments what you think is Shohei Ohtani's greatest feat. His first unanimous MVP? The World Classic victory striking out Mike Trout? Or the structure of his record contract to help his team win? And if you are fascinated by stories of athletes who break limits, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next video.